was lucky enough to get an early review copy of Sacha Black's new non-fiction writing craft book, The Anatomy of Prose. And today I'm going to tell you my thoughts about the book. And in case you missed it, I will link above in the cards and the description box below a chat that I had with Sacha that I just posted on Monday, so be sure to check that out after this review. Sacha Black is a self-published author who has written a series of young adult fantasy books and also 2 other nonfiction writing craft books, including 13 Steps to Evil, which is all about crafting villains, and 10 Steps to Hero, which, you guessed it, is all about your hero or protagonist. She is also a podcaster. She has 2 podcasts, the Rebel Author podcast and also Next Level Authors, which I will also link below in the description. I have been following Sacha for some time now, and I was so excited to join her street team to get a chance to read The Anatomy of Prose early. Now, this book is not for the faint of heart. It comes in at over 350 pages, chock full of resources and advice on how to work on your line level prose. The Anatomy of Prose was such a fun book to read. It was probably the most fun I've ever had reading a writing craft book. Sacha's voice is so strong and it comes through so well in how she writes her nonfiction. She is funny, sarcastic, and she does swear in the book, so if that does offend you, I did want to warn you, but it's such a fun way of reading about writing craft. I felt like I was sitting there and she was chatting with me, or I was listening to one of her podcasts. It was such a great experience overall. Now, even though I've published 13 books so far, I found so much information in this novel that I marked up my own copy quite a bit. While there was information I already knew, for instance, about not filtering our prose, cliches, and adverbs, Sacha dug deeper in a way that made this process sound refreshing and a reminder to look out for all these things in my own writing. I did take a lot out of this book, but I wanted to highlight 3 sections that really stuck out to me and have changed the way that I think about my own writing and what I will reference moving forward. Number 1, sensory description. Now, description has always been a bit of a downfall for me with my writing, at least in the first draft. And I have to really work intentionally to beef it up in my later drafts. And most of the time I tend to focus on visuals. Now, Sacha writes about how it's important to use all 5 senses in our writing, which can help bring out different emotions in the character and thus the reader. She has practical exercises for a writer to become more aware of words associated with all 5 senses. Now, other than it being a weakness in my early drafts, which I intend to fix going forward, I really connected with the smell sense section of this chapter. I lack a good sense of smell. I really can't smell a lot of things, and I tend to not describe it as much as I could within my books because of my own lack of the sense. So when I do find a particular point in my book that I want to describe smell, I usually have to interview other people in my life and ask them what things smell like. I know it's a little weird, but that's what I do. Now, there was a chat that Sacha did with iWriterly, Meg Latour, and I actually asked her this question because I was really interested for them to talk about senses during this chat, and she suggested that I should seek out other books where authors do this well and sort of study how someone would do this. And that brings me to number 2, reading intentionally. In The Anatomy of Prose, Sacha references the misconception around Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours quote, in that it wouldn't take 10,000 hours of passively reading or writing to up your craft, but 10,000 hours of intentional reading and writing to gain mastery. Now, as I'm reviewing craft books this year on my channel and going through at least one of them a month, I have been annotating and tabbing them up with things I want to remember. But then once I'm done reading the book and have done the review, I don't really do much with the information. Now, I could pick out about less than a handful of books off my shelf that I would want to reference over and over again in full. So using this idea of reading intentionally, I've made a point to study what I have highlighted in these books in one place so I can reference them quickly when I am looking for a bit of advice or inspiration. Now this process is still new for me. I have created a Scrivener document around it. If you would like to see more and see how I'm using it, let me know in the comments below and maybe I'll make a video on it. And my intent is also to do this with my fiction reading as well. Sacha did reference that she takes little pieces, little snippets of dialogue and characterization and things like that in books she reads, and she is able to study them as well. And in this practical way, I hope to hone my craft even more, which brings us into the third takeaway from this book, the editing checklist. In the interview with Sacha, again, you should totally check it out right after this video because it's a lot of fun and a lot of information. She mentioned that using the principles in the Anatomy of Prose, you would basically get a developmental edit on your book if you put into practice everything throughout her book. Outside of plot, I'm more focused on prose here since the book is the Anatomy of Prose. The sections of this book outline what a developmental editor would look for while they work on a novel, which I thought was pretty amazing. And she even includes an editing checklist with this book, which I thought was even more amazing. And you know how much I love checklists. And throughout this book, Sacha continued to surprise me with more information on improving on a prose level. And if you hadn't guessed it already, I would highly recommend this book. These three takeaways are in no way a comprehensive list of everything that I took away from the Anatomy of Prose, because telling you everything would take hours. Now, in terms of who this book is for, I believe this book is for writers in many different stages of their careers. Now, this might not be a book for someone who has never written a novel before, because it may seem overwhelming, but definitely for anyone who has completed maybe a short story, flash fiction, novella, novel, whatever. And this is a way for them to improve upon what you already have written. Now, this book will be available on May 29th, 2020, and it will come in hardback, paperback, and ebook. There's also a workbook and a forthcoming course as well. Now, in terms of pricing, currently on Amazon, the ebook is $6.99, the hardcover is $19.99, and the paperback is $12.99. And I have also linked that below as well. Now, do I think you should buy it? If you haven't guessed it already, I would say yes. Like I said, I have already pre-ordered my own copy because I do enjoy having these books in physical form, and this is definitely a book that I will reference in the future. And I think it's a helpful resource for any writer looking to dig deeper into prose. If you are interested in more of my writing craft book reviews, you can check out the 2 videos on your screen. I've also created a playlist, which I will link below. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, do give it a like because it really helps me out. I post videos on Mondays and Wednesdays all about the writing process and all the bookish things, so be sure to subscribe below and hit that little notification bell so you know the next time I upload, and I'll see you soon.